Ibrahim at the controls. I'm Najla Naguib with Dr. Amr Mabrouk, Professor of Plastic Surgery at Ain Shams University. And we're taking you straight away to India. And we're pleased to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Sanjay Bhattacharya, Ambassador of India to Egypt. Hello.
It's a great pleasure to have with us a very distinguished diplomat, and for his first time with us here to our program, His Excellency the Indian Ambassador to Cairo, with a distinguished career in Dhaka and in India and in Tokyo and in other places of the world. And he has come here again as a first time as an ambassador to Egypt, carrying a lot of the burden of a strong tie and strong relationship between Egypt and India, and with the hope to always get it into much better places which already occupy the hearts of the Egyptians and the life of Egyptians. We're so fond of India, and we love India as a country, as a culture, and of course Bollywood. Excellency, it's a great pleasure.
Namaskar, it's a delight for me to be with all of you this morning. It's a great pleasure.
The pleasure is ours.
Definitely. The India, of course, a lot of people know the history of India or familiar with the history of India, but let's refresh the minds of our listeners with the fact that the long history of India, with the diversity of its people, has added to its heritage. How do you think that that the inspiration of this diversity in India was able to thrive in spite of this diversification?
As you know, India is not a small country. It's got a very large population.
And a subcontinent, as they used to call it. Yes.
And so diversity is inherent in the country, the land, and the people. We speak different languages. We speak different dialects. We have 22 official languages in the Constitution. We also have 29 states and 7 union territories. We have different cuisines. They say that if you travel 50 miles, you will have a new dialect. And if you travel 200 miles, you will have an entirely new cuisine. So we live in this complexity of diversity. And for us, that's become the strength.
So, in spite of the fact that this could have divided the country into different fragments or what we call the Balkanization of India, thank God this didn't happen. How was that possible? I mean, there are a lot of things that unify people beside the land and the climate, and we find in India that there, as you have kindly explained to us, different languages and even different traits and different characters and different religions, yet all these were bonded together into one big population.
I think the people of Egypt, who are another ancient civilization, will be able to appreciate this much well. I remember going to the Egyptian Museum not long ago, and they showed me a stele which talked about the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt.
Yes, the lotus and the papyrus with the famous Minan armor plate.
And that is exactly the way it happened back in India. We had a king by the name of Ashoka, 4th century before the Christian era. And he brought about the unification of a country in a manner that roughly corresponds with the contours and the boundaries of current-day India, perhaps a little more. But since this was the basis on which it all began, and diversity was inherent in the way in which the society had evolved, and the unity of the people and their commitment to the concept of India, of course it was known by different names at different times in history, but that brought about this unity of purpose, this single-minded devotion towards what represents India and our society and our family and what we aspire.
Mm-hmm. So this will definitely bring us to the great struggle of independence. We are all familiar that India has fallen, unfortunately, under the colonization by the British Empire, and usually the Brits called India as the crown jewel of their empire. They rumors have it is that they invaded Egypt just to ensure the pathway to their crown jewel, which is India, and this gives us the unification of fate and history between Egypt and India that extends, as you have said before going on air, to 4 centuries even before Christ, when